stay hot. Stay hot. The time is now. The lights are bright. Turning up the heat, doing it right. We're taking the stage. We're making a move. The energy's rising. We're in the groove. The mic's hot. Momentum strong. You're in the place where you belong. We're breaking boundaries. We're setting the pace. With Patrick Kelch leading the race. From the biggest headlines to the deepest dives. The Stay Hot podcast is going live. All right.
Happy Mother's Day, not just to the Big Blue Nation moms, but happy Mother's Day to my mom. Thank you for birthing a legend. Not very many mothers can say that they've birthed the legend that is Patrick Kelch, or someone like Patrick Kelch, I should say. Shout out to my daughter's mom, excellent mother. Shout out to all the moms out there. Mother's Day, I know for the ones who are, or I should say, let me rephrase that before I should say something that somebody comes back on me later and, throws in my face. But shout out to those who celebrate Mother's Day every single day. So mothers definitely deserve it for all they do, all they have to put up with, all the sacrifices they make, time invested, money spent. Mother's Day is a very, very special day, as it should be, and should be celebrated a lot more frequently than one day a year. So also, with it being Mother's Day, we will now on refer to that as Mommy Day, because after our latest boom, we've got one more piece to fill the roster. One more piece. And that will be Milan Momcilovic once he withdraws from the NBA draft. Also, shout out to Pepsi. Let me find the camera here. My future sponsor. Shout out to Stanley, Kevin, and Jake for joining the Stay Hot podcast team last show and becoming members. Thank you to those of you that continue to show up every show. Thank you for those who continue to keep our chat moving, keep conversation flowing. Thank you to all those for the good vibes that you possess by showing up. And also, the only way to continue to support the show is to continue showing up. And I appreciate that. Everybody here. I see a lot of familiar names already in the chat. Just kind of go over a little bit here. See, Peanuts already read my mind. One more puzzle piece. Brian kind of expresses his sentiments to all moms. And when we say all moms, we mean moms, bonus moms, and those single dads who have to play both roles. Classes, I'm bald now, going with the Mark Pope approach, huh? Jake tells me to behave yourself tonight. Jake, I just have to tell you, a lot of things with YouTube is tough to navigate, and it's a whole new issue when you activate your monetization. So, like I said, several weeks ago, I became monetized because you only had to have like 500 followers. You had to have like 3,000 watch hours. And so I actually did that several weeks ago, and I never really thought anything about it to activate it or whatever. But since I activated, I got an email from YouTube letting me know that the last video that we did called Mark My Words with Mark Pope, when he was going over the video, or we were going over that video from Twitter of Mark Pope. Well, I got an email from YouTube telling me that if I didn't make some corrections, that video could not be monetized because there was copyrighted material in it. And what it was is the short highlights that I showed you all on YouTube of who was it I showed you of? Maybe it been maybe Momchilovich. Yeah, I think it was the Momchilovich highlights I showed you from YouTube. That those were copyrighted. So, and it was more of the music I let play. I forgot to turn it off. So, I'm gonna have to be careful of that, and you're all going to have to remind me. So, Jake, I'm going to do my best to be on my best behavior tonight. 2 spots left. They're going to fill them both. Yeah, but here's what I expect to happen, Larry. You know, of course, they're going to save 1 spot for the guy that's going to, you know, elevate our level and raise us to be a potential Final Four team. But I think the other spot, they're probably going to go overseas and get another. I'm not going to necessarily call a project, but somebody they can spend some time in developing. And if they do that, I think they may look at a multi-year deal with him, similar to the one they did with Njai. Obviously, not the same amount of money, or it's not going to be the same deal, but it may be structured the same. I really like how they structured the Momchilovich deal, where, or not Momchilovich. See, I'm on mommy day. But similar to the Usman Njai deal, where they gave him $4.3 million for 2 years, which is essentially what, $2.15 million a year. But if he decides to leave Kentucky after a year, whether it's to transfer, whether it's to, you know, go to the NBA draft, then there's a clause in there that he would have a buyout and that he would have to pay some of that money back. And that's the one thing that I've said that I feel like we need to I think it's just something that we just need to start doing, you know, with some of these guys. You know, when you're allowed 15 players on the roster now, you know, essentially Pope's not going any more than 8 or 9 deep. I think 9's too many, but there may be games, you know, specifically the way, you know, injuries fall or way foul trouble hits that you may have to go 9 or 10 deep. But the last 5 spots on the roster now, those are ones that they're going to probably have to put some time in developing, and if they're going to be contributors at Kentucky. Why does Pope shave his head? You can tell his hairline is healthy. He's not bald. I'm not sure, Joe, why he shaves his head. I don't have a direct line to Mark Pope yet. I'm working on that, but I'd say if you reply to some of his videos on Twitter and you may be asking that question, that might be one that he answers. I don't know. He likes to throw in a silly one every once in a while. Crash, hey, good being here. Was just on the phone with Big K. They're angry about your love of Pepsi. If Big K wants to shoot that sponsorship over, Crash, I'll start drinking Big K on the stream. So just let them know that I'm up for grabs. I can be bought. Everybody's got a price. Love your show, man. Awesome, dude. You do a great job. Chris, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming back week after week after week after week. I think mommy is a pipe dream. I don't think he'll come, unfortunately. See, that's the kind of negativity we don't need, Joe. You know, in here we referred to him as Mom Chill or Mommy. So, and with it being Mother's Day, that's kind of the negativity we don't need surrounding mommy. Mommy's not a pipe dream. There's a legit chance. And I'm going to tell you right now, you know, when certain national media say that Kentucky's got a bona fide chance to land that dude, then it must be real. Or, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire, so to speak. And I hear a lot of people saying that, you know, Kentucky's definitely in the mix. I heard Loserville's after the guy from Iowa State, the one Mark Pope's after. Have you heard that? Yeah, I've heard that. but I don't know how much more money Louisville has or are willing to spend. I don't know. They've said that they're willing to spend a lot of money, and they've already spent a lot of money. I think we've got 10 to 15 schools that already got a $20 million roster for next season. So, there's going to be a lot of people upset with a $20 million roster because there's only one team that can win it all. But I hope everybody keeps that same energy when Kentucky came out this year. Somebody posted that Mark Pope had a $22 million roster and Kentucky was struggling. All you heard from everybody say, oh, well, they got a $22 million roster. They got a $22 million roster. Why aren't they winning more? They suck. Fire Pope. Well, I hope that same energy from those people is kept that level. So when these other schools such as Louisville, Tennessee's going all in as well, and they've never made a Final Four before. So I don't expect them to make a Final Four now. There's a lot of parity now, and just having a good roster full of players, doesn't guarantee you a spot in the Final Four or national championship. And to be honest with you, what Duke has down in North Carolina, Durham, shoot, they'd probably be on me if I said that. I better be careful what I say. But, Duke, Florida, Michigan State, and there's a lot of people building what I would consider substantial rosters, and there's only one team that's going to be happy at the end of the day, and that's the team that, cuts down the nets. No, Duke is in Durham. Okay, I was right. All right, I thought it didn't sound right. Chapel Hills, North Carolina. All right. Yeah, St. John's is also in the mix. The one thing we can't allow happen is the Donnie Freeman situation. We can't allow St. John's to come in and take him right from under us. And I've said this, and I really hope that Mark Pope, when he's sitting at that table, and well, I'm not going to say sitting at that table yet, but when Mark Pope's on Zoom, I hope he's really selling the university and just how important, mommy can be for our roster next year. He truly takes it from us, Sweet 16 to a Final Four caliber roster. And I hope he's saying, like, look, you come to Kentucky and you turn this program around. We've had a couple rough years, not made the Sweet Six or whatever, just kind of throw out there at them, kind of the situation the university's in, the basketball program, and put a blank check in front of him. And then, go from there. Don't let him leave the room until he commits, but we can't let it turn into like a Donnie Freeman to where St. John's comes in and last minute. Bruce Richardson. Hey, what's up, Bruce? If you're new here, please go back to the channel and give me a subscribe. One thing we did last show, I think it was, we was on 9 hours between Wednesday and Thursday. Guys, I just couldn't do it Friday. I needed a break. I was starting to get a sore throat. And then, or was that yesterday? Thursday, Friday, maybe. We went Thursday, Friday, and we took Saturday off. Okay. But if you're new here, give me a subscribe. Last, I think we jumped up about 30 new subscribers last show. So that's always exciting to me. That means we're reaching new people. Now the goal is not only to get new subscribers, but keep them coming back. So appreciate you guys coming by. All the BBN dummies are fading. Louisville fans are taking unprovoked shots at our roster that seem to be falling on deaf ears. The silence means the real fans are soaking all the hate in, just waiting. Yeah, I've noticed some things too. But the one thing that, there's still this guy on Twitter that he followed me. I followed him back. The moment I followed him, I don't know if he's a listener or I don't know if he viewed the show. But his name is Sean Thomas. He may be a subscriber. I'm not sure. He followed me. I followed him back. But he purposely, seems like everything I post, he takes chances to take a shot at Pope or Kentucky. So I just went ahead and unfollowed him. So I just don't need that negativity right now. But I said something about, when I put up my short just the other day about UK possibly getting Marino's backup with Frank the Tank. Shortly after, or later on that day, he commented and said, "Sucks, NIT." So that tells me right there that, he probably hasn't seen many highlights on this guy, or just because he probably wasn't familiar with him, that, he automatically assumes he sucks. He says he shaves his head because it's one less thing to worry about. Okay, well, I shave my head a little bit too, but I definitely don't have Mark Pope baldness, according to Holly, who I try. I know you do. Joe, we have the most money to offer in a wide open spot for him. There's no way that some of these other teams have the amount of money to spend that we still have left. We've talked about on this show multiple weeks in a row now. The money we had set aside for Stokes was specifically Stokes money. The donors, the people who were donating to kind of help get money to land Stokes, said that they'd only give money if it was for Stokes's commitment. Now, there's also been several people out there that have also said, although that money, so to speak, that was Stokes money, if we get the opportunity to land a big superstar, that they'll find the money. So I definitely feel like we have the most money to offer, and we definitely have the spot of need. That's a spot we need. And I just think Pope, Pope, McLean, Williams, whoever it is that's talking to his team, his crew, however you want to respond to them, need to let them know, hey, you come to Kentucky, you have a successful year this year, you'll be loved for life in Lexington. Kentucky's starving right now for success. They've had 2 subpar years according to Kentucky standards. Although Mark Pope has the same amount of wins as what John Calipari's had in his first 2 years at Arkansas. Nobody seems to want to talk about that. But, the Kentucky gold standard isn't having the same amount of wins as Arkansas. All right. In order to get that gold standard back, it's a little bit more success is needed. And, rightfully so. We didn't earn that title, or we didn't earn that label or that standard by just being above 500 or a Sweet 16 team or a second weekend or whatever. So definitely think we got a spot. Louisville can't have as much to offer. They don't. Louisville already has Carter Knox at small forward. Carter Knox probably not even going to start on that team. Crash, do you think Knox starts? And here's why. I hear that the 4 from Iowa, the guy's name that I can never remember that hit the shot to beat Florida, starts with an F. You guys have told me multiple times. I've seen a lot of projections have him starting at the 3. So. Oh, yeah, me too. Big Chuck KY. How's Darlene captain? Oh, I guess he's talking to you, Crash. So I don't know who Darlene is, but Big Chuck, I don't recognize you name. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. When you get the opportunity, please go back to YouTube and give me a subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that. Just trying to get the show out there to more people. Right now we're sitting over 600 subscribers, but I'd like to reach a lot more people, get them in here. Mommy makes us a top 10 team. St. John's probably don't have room. I'm sure a lot of teams are probably in the same boat. If something were to happen to where Mom Chill would commit to that team, they're probably going to find the money, or they're probably going to find a spot. But some of the people that they've already signed, or, some of the people that they've already guaranteed starting positions to, which we're hearing happens a lot more frequently in this NIL year. Or I shouldn't say NIL year, NIL era. A lot of times these kids that are transferring wanting starting positions. That's one thing that I think is huge about our signing of Frank Kepnang is because, I think he knows he's coming in as a backup and he's willing to accept that role. He's 6'11", 253 pounds. So, we'll talk about him here in a minute. She's out at TGI Fridays pounding LITs with her BFFs. Well, call Holly and tell her that's unacceptable. Get in here. Call Holly and Darlene. Get them in here. I definitely agree that it makes us. Yeah, he's going to be eligible. I will say that that's why if you saw my short on I think Saturday morning, I put a short out and I said Marino's backup ... maybe ? The maybe was because, excuse me, that because he's going to need a waiver for a 7th year, but I can't remember the guy's name. He's a Kentucky writer, but he reached out to Washington people, and the people from Washington don't expect him to have trouble getting a waiver. They expect him to be eligible. And they even said that he might possibly get more than 1 year waiver, but they're very confident he's going to receive at least a 1 year waiver. And the Kentucky folks is equally confident, if not more, that eligibility is not going to be an issue. So I definitely think that's going to be okay. That's going to work out. I heard that was projected 20 to 25. I've heard only about 15 teams have so far. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's crazy, Chuck. Everybody was, and that's what I said, everybody was all in open arms last year when Kentucky leaked, or somebody leaked that Kentucky spent $22 million. I'm still not 100% sure, honestly, that I'm still not 100% sure, honestly, that number was even accurate. But I'm not saying it's not accurate, but I'm not 100% sure that it is accurate. But like I said, when Kentucky spends that kind of money and struggles, everybody comes out of the woodwork to fire Pope or to take shots at Kentucky. I hope those same people have that same energy when, some of these teams, if there's 20 to 25 teams that already spent $20 million this year, odds are some of those teams are going to struggle. I hope they're called out for their roster management. I hope they're called out for their roster construction. I hope they're called out and call for their coaches to be fired because they've paid all this money for a roster and can't win an NCAA championship. I hope all of those things. Hold on here. I hit a wrong button or something. Okay. I hope all those things resurface when it's other teams and not just Kentucky. The casuals think it's over when the portal closed. Kentucky wins, you lose. Says, I don't believe that. All right, Peanut. You're the first one of the night. And I don't know if I believe that or not, but here's what I'm going to do. But since Kentucky wins, you lose, doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
That's not true. That's not true.
But I actually probably I just wanted to play that soundbite. I think it's great. I actually probably agree more so with Peanut than I do with you. Was it Jacob? Josh? I know it starts with a J. Jacob. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I do think a lot of casuals believe that way. I'm not going to say all casuals. And I'll even go as far as to say that there's probably some casuals out there, or even people who probably consider themselves more than a casual fan, that probably don't really know a whole lot about the portal and what happens once it closes or so forth. So, but I would think a lot of people, think that that Kentucky's roster is done when the portal closes. Which may not. I mean, they may sign 2 more before the portal closes, but even if they only sign 1 more, they can still, after the portal closes, they're still able to finish the roster. Kep Nung's highlights are awesome. I thought just what we need, a Rodney Dent type. He's definitely a grown man, 6'11", 250 pounds. A great rim protector. Was in the top 19, 14 or something in the country, and and his rim protection percentage with block shots and Just his ability, in the SEC, we're going to need that physicality. We're going to need that body. We're going to need somebody that can rebound in traffic or somebody that can, block a shot at the rim. And he definitely gives us that. We have the greatest tradition in college basketball history to offer. I'm not so sure that matters anymore, Brian. That used to mean something. These kids now coming from all over the country, from the high school route, or even from the or even from the transfer portal, they don't care about the history of Kentucky. The only ones on our team that know that history or care about that history are Marino, Noah, and Potter. The rest of them, it doesn't, they may have talked about, the Hawthorns, they got on Kentucky basketball camp shirts when they were under 10 years old. But they're from West Virginia, so I don't even know about if the history really even means a lot to them. But, that used to be enough to get you a recruit. I'm not so sure that even matters. I don't think anybody's sleeping on Braden Hawthorne. I just think it's, when you get the opportunity with a guy like Mom Chill, look at the season he had last year. When that guy's available and he's the position you need, you go all in. Okay. I had 2 or 3 shows ago, Chris, I don't know if you were here, went back and watched it or, whatever, but we kind of posed the question, would you rather have Momcilovic or Stokes? And the majority of the people said they wanted Mommy just because, he's proven he can do it at the collegiate level. There seems to always be, or in most cases, there's a hang up or an adjustment period moving from high school to college, let alone a freshman moving to a Power 5 conference like the SEC or even like, Stokes going to Kansas, Big 12, which plays Kentucky right off the bat. And I don't think anybody's sleeping on Hawthorne. We just don't know what to expect. How do you know how good he is, Chris? How do you know how good he is? Nobody ever misses shots in highlights. Nobody ever misses shots in, when they show videos of him warming up. Nobody ever, looks bad in those type things. We know what Pope has said about him. I know he's a hard worker because he was always pointed out for being the first one in the gym, the last one to leave. But how is it fair to say that everybody's sleeping on him when we don't really know what to expect? We've not seen him in game action yet. So I have very high hopes for Hawthorne. I definitely think he's going to play. I definitely think he can contribute. He was a top 30 player in that class that year, but I don't think it's fair to say that everybody's sleeping on him either. Just because you don't hear a lot about him, it's because a lot of people don't know a lot about him. Joe, I can tell you what doesn't shake the bad juju is saying that it's a pipe dream to landing. That's speaking it into existence. Agree. Appreciate you, Chuck. Thanks for coming by. Chris Jolly, Kentucky has the money. Just got to right. And we've talked about how to close the deal. I just wish that Mark Pope would have subscribed to the Stay Hot podcast and, sit down and watch this for a minute before he walked into that room to close the deal. You play hardball with him. Don't let him leave until I just don't think you let him leave until he signs on the dotted line. If they ask for 2 weeks to make their decision, they're still not sure, then they're probably not coming to Kentucky anyhow. Move on. That Stokes situation was a farce, embarrassing, clown show. I think Wilkins and Zoom start. I think they may even move Mom to the 4 and play Cam at the 3, then Njai and McBride come off the bench. And guys, I've seen a lot of people say they think McBride will start over Usman. That'd be great. I just know if Holly was home, Holly would be on here right now. She's a loyal supporter. So those drinks at Fridays might be going down smooth for her. hopefully maybe in the future we can get her on Sundays. Maybe she'll come in here late and drunk and put a little spice. I'm happy with Frank the Tonk. Yeah, we definitely needed a banger. Yeah, but I've seen where they're going to play him at the 3. Obviously, I don't see that happening just because, they're already, I mean, their size at the 4 or 5 position, and that room's already crowded. So I wouldn't be shocked if they try to play him at the 3 some, but I don't think that's his best position, or I don't think that's what fit Louisville best. But I'm not so sure this roster that Pat Kelsey has put together. And I'm not sure our Louisville friend Anthony's in here or not, but I'm sure he'll make his presence known once he does get in here. But I'm not so sure that roster fits together. It may just be a jumbled mess. I guess we'll see sooner than later. But, honestly, Clyde, NIL should benefit Kentucky. We should have the most money, the most resources, and being a blue blood and just the program in general, the gold standard, we should like it wild and out of control. And if we had Calipari, we'd love it that it was wild and out of control. Pope's taking a different approach, and I'm not for sure we know how to handle it yet, but I like his videos. I think he's getting better. Somebody made the comment last show that, why should fans have to sit and wait for Pope to learn or get it under control or whatever. But, I think some of the things we've asked or some of the things he's doing now, like putting out the weekly, or I shouldn't say weekly videos, because last week he put out 3. I think he's putting another one out tomorrow. And when I say that I think he's doing by putting these out, that don't mean that I agree with everything he's saying. I didn't agree with his GM answer. Having those 4 people on a GM or general management team. You need one guy that'll go in there and close the deal. Obviously, Keegan Brown's not it. Obviously, Kim Shelton's not it. Obviously, the other 2 guys, Kevin something and whoever, obviously those guys aren't it because we're not getting in that room. We're not closing the deal. And if Pope's will be the one that does all the negotiations because he's being stubborn about a general manager, then Pope, you just need to get it done. He knows he's on the hot seat. I'm sure that's not a big secret. That's an interesting take. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but if we know Mommy makes us Final Four contender, I'm sure the donors know. If not, they should. And if somebody hasn't told them, shame on them. But, I just figure with it being Mother's Day, Mommy's the only appropriate name for him tonight. Everybody will refer to him as Mommy. And you never know. We may work up a Mommy commitment on Mother's Day to Kentucky just right here on the show. We're not going to hang banners like the Banner Boys did, or we're not going to, but we're going to talk that into existence tonight. And that's true, Brian, but a lot of those expectations are from the fan base and sometimes those expectations are national championship or bust. And there's some years they should have been national championship or bust, but last year we didn't have a national championship roster. So, all right, let's look here. All right. So for those of you that are new or didn't know or just now joining the show a little late, Kentucky did receive a commitment from Senator Frank Kepnong from Washington. What a lot of people don't realize about this guy is I think he was a member of the 2020 class. He was the same class as Isaiah Jackson. Do you remember Isaiah Jackson for Kentucky that got drafted by the Pacers? I think he's still with the Pacers, actually. He was a top 10. He was ranked top 10 in that class. So obviously a lot of praise, a lot of expectations coming, out of high school to Oregon. He obviously has been injury prone, which I'm not so sure at Kentucky we need anybody else who suffers from injuries or has, substantial injuries to miss a lot of time. He didn't play a lot of games last year at Washington. So his numbers are kind of up and down because I think he ended up starting like the last 6 games or something. But he has had significant injuries, and that's why a lot of people don't seem to think that getting him eligible through a medical waiver is going to be an issue. I want to show you one play. I'm only going to show you one play because I can't handle getting any more emails from YouTube talking about my copyright infringements. But I'm just going to show you this one play, and I'll let you all decide. Hold on a minute. I'm having trouble. I don't know this. All right. All right. Watch this one play here. Let me pull it up here. This is only 17 seconds, but this is one play of Kepnang right here. Strips it right back. Hold on. I'm going to turn off the sound just so that don't get me busted. Watch this. Let's watch that again. Look where he took off from. Look at that. That's at the logo. That's the Big Ten logo. The guy's a good foot outside the restricted arc. But it's an offensive foul. And you heard it. It was, and you're probably going to guess it. When that video came out, and it was Mario Matlin, I think, from KSR, he tweeted it the first time yesterday. And I'm sure, I remember seeing it when it happened on there. Of course, I didn't remember making the connection of who it was that did it with who it was that just committed to us. I didn't make that connection. But I will say, but it's like, the first comment or first 2 comments was, what's so impressive about it? That was an offensive foul. That was an offensive foul. It didn't even count. Did you see that? That's the kind of athlete at his size that I want being our backup center. Would probably start for a lot of other teams in the SEC, maybe even around college basketball. Hawthorne would have been top 10 in the current freshman class. Yeah, and that 26 freshman class was just loaded. PK, I don't know how good he is, but I watched a podcast with his dad on. His dad said for people to be prepared because he was ready. Yes, and Chris, and I think he can be really, really good. I don't want to put a lot of unnecessary pressure on him. Oh, no need to apologize. You're good, Chris. We don't, it's not this show. This show's nothing like that. I didn't think you were being rude by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of times I reply with questions or comments or whatever just to try to drive the conversation. And, but you go on Twitter, Facebook. I don't have TikTok, Instagram, anything like that. But Twitter and Facebook, you just see all the times like, why is everybody sleeping on Hawthorne? And I don't necessarily think that they're sleeping on him. I just don't think we know what he can do yet. Like I said, I've seen him shooting around in pre-games. I've seen him, pictures or clips of him shooting around after games at Rupp when everybody has left. And that's the work ethic you want from a kid who's redshirting that knows they're not even going to get a chance to play in a game all year. But he's still taking advantage of the opportunity and time to work and get better in his craft and game. And I definitely think he's going to surprise people. I just don't want to put the pressure on him yet to be, if we can get somebody in that position that's better and that he can, learn under, work behind, give some minutes. I think he's a versatile player. We may be able to use him at more than one spot. I don't know what Pope's plans are. Sometimes I think in the portal, it seems like when you look at our roster, everybody's making fun of our roster. Our roster's not any good. Our roster's not even a, I hear an NIT. Andy Katz thinks we're a top 44. We're 44th in the country. They've expanded to 76 teams now. I know we've talked about that, but a couple people have Kentucky in the play-in game and a 76-team NCAA tournament. So I definitely think that, a lot of people don't realize the roster we have, because I think they enjoy kicking Kentucky when they're down, and they want to make themselves believe that our roster is not any good. But Wilkins is an all SEC player. Marino, you heard the praise from Pope, thinks he's a best center in college basketball this year. I think between Cam Williams and Hawthorne, those two guys together are going to be much improved, going to get better. Zoom Diallo, I think, is an upgrade at the point from what we had last year. I'm talking about with Lowe, and, even a more efficient point guard than what we had in Denzel Aberdeen. With Aberdeen, we were forced to play him out of position because we didn't have any backup point guards that Pope felt that he could trust. Jasper definitely wasn't the answer there. And I think that's another thing Pope's not given credit for. Pope has at least built depth at every position. Clyde's been listening to Anthony Epps. Don't focus on who didn't come here. Focus on who is here. Right. This offer is only good for you right now. You told us what you wanted. You told us you wanted $7 million. Here's $7 million. Take it or leave it. You walk out that door without signing it, it's going to somebody else. Quit waiting these 2 weeks. I think Iowa State's already filled his spot anyhow, Peanut. Yeah, I'm a Pope guy. I like Pope. I want to give him a chance. I think we saw the first year Kentucky, I think he scratched the surface of, just being a good in-game coach. There's just a few other things he's got to shore up, and recruiting is one of them. And I think in order for him to shore up his recruiting, he's got to get, help. And, I appreciate him having 4 people in those spots, but I think they're still leaving out the one spot on that GM team that makes a difference, and that's the closer. Didn't Arkansas win the SEC tournament this year? Dan Hurley's first 3 to 4 years were not great. Maybe Pope can follow his trajectory. Dan Hurley definitely has taken a different route, but what he's done the last 3 or 4 years may be unprecedented. Go Big Frank. I agree. I know, and I've been watching that too, Peanut, and even the ones who love to dog or love to pile on Kentucky. They hate when they don't really have a reason to. Yeah, yep, same class as Cameron Fletcher too. That's right. And let's not even speak that into existence, but you're right. We don't. Pope can handle a third year of not meeting a team's expectations because of injuries. And, honestly, I'm not saying the injuries are necessarily Pope's fault or they're not his fault, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you're the head man of the program. And Briscoe, Isaiah Briscoe. YouTube had a problem with basketball highlights, but the point, yeah, when we did that chat roulette and that adult entertainment popped up. Yeah, they didn't seem to care about that, but they cared about the, I guess, the music that was playing in the background of the mommy highlights. Is it that dunk? Is what that dunk? Oh yeah, the highlight. Yeah. That's crazy. Holly, how many drinks did you have at Fridays? Crash has already spilled the beans. He said you were throwing back shots like left and right. Thanks for stopping by, Holly. Happy Mother's Day to all the women in the chat. I don't know if Holly's the only one, but happy Mother's Day to her. Yeah, it was crazy, Clyde. You know, the new thing going on is a lot of people are logging on to this thing called Chat Roulette, and they're streaming the people that they're kind of having interactions with. And, you know, it was late one night. It was probably 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. It was like hour 5 or 6 of the stream. And you know, we were going nonstop. You know, we're animals here. We're built different here in the Stay Hot podcast. But it was yeah, I clicked on Chat Roulette, went to get into the site. Next thing you know, I had to hurry up and quit sharing my screen. My mouse was going 100 miles an hour. I was fumbling over my words because I was just, one, it wasn't expected. Two, I was embarrassed. Like crazy. It should be illegal to go to TGI Fridays on a Sunday. So I know Holly, you should really question your friendship with Crash. He's always spreading malicious rumors and he's putting nefarious ideas in people's heads. And I've seen people call Frank the Tank kind of like the Temu version of Santo Surreal. Regardless, in the words of Ryan Lemon, Frank the Tank's a grown-ass man. 6'11", 253 pounds. I'll take him. That's always a question, and I think Derek Anderson alluded to that. I know you've said it on here a couple of shows, and people say, "Where's Holly? Where's Holly?" Oh, she's back throwing up Long Island iced teas at Fridays with her BFFs. That's not a bad comp. Not a bad comp. One of the biggest downfalls, I think, what I read about him was, like he only shoots 50% from the field, which goes to his touch or goes to his, you know, just, I guess, touch around the basket. And I think it might have been Locked on Kentucky Lance. Lance said something along the lines of he expected that number to go up significantly at Kentucky because he's going to be in that dunker spot. You know, and if people aren't remembering, I mean, he played with Zoom at Washington. So there's already some kind of chemistry there, already some connection there. And somebody else also pointed out that he also started a game with Sahvir Wheeler and Keon Brooks. So a lot of a lot of Kentucky connections out west in Washington. But I agree, Chuck. I agree, buddy. He drops a lot of knowledge in here that, you know, we like Crash. We appreciate him. It's been tased. You got a gallon of shins. Sorry to hear that. I don't know how you want me to respond to that. I know you're probably saying I got a gallon of shine, but a gallon of shins, I not really sure how to respond to that. So yeah, I don't really think with Kepnong, you know, and I've seen it a couple other times in the chat, I don't really believe that the medical waiver is anything to worry about. You know, of course, you know, like I said, people in Twitter world, you know, social media world, people all over love to have any opportunity to kind of crap on Kentucky, you know. And the first thing when he was obviously when he was signed or committed, the first thing you heard about was being 25 or 6 years old, 24 years old, almost 25. And then they also wanted to throw in that, you know, he's been injured a lot and, you know, Kentucky likes to recruit players that are injured, like Jaden Quaintance, and so we're going to hear that all year long. But ignore it. I think he's a great backup piece. We need that body. We need that type of physical makeup. And 6'11", 250. I'll take that all day in the SEC. I really will. All right, and it's funny, we were talking, I think the last show I brought up, we were talking about, I think somebody asked us who was still on the board for Kentucky. Excuse me. Kentucky, I think we were talking about, once again, Stokes kind of leaving us high and dry. Then a few other people that we were recruiting, came off the board. Then people were actually asking who was left, or and I kept mentioning Devin Williams. Devin Williams, Florida Atlantic, Kentucky was on him early. One of the first few names I remember hearing Kentucky being on. He's a center. He started at UCLA, went to Florida Atlantic, and, entered the portal. You heard Kentucky being involved with him. You heard Kentucky kind of interested as the backup to Marino. And, when I started watching him, I kind of liked the way he played. I think he's 6'10". Obviously doesn't have the same physical body as what Kepnang has. But, I was kind of talking myself into this kid. I really liked him. And I just don't know why. But Kentucky wasn't the only team that backed off. I think I started reading about him after he committed to Seton Hall. But Arizona also backed off. He actually took a visit to Arizona. And I think what almost happened was, I think he was wanting starter money, and he was going to be a backup at both places. At Seton Hall, I don't know if he was going to get as much money, but he's going to get that. He's getting that starter role. But I think Kentucky and Zona both backed off just for the simple fact that he wanted starter money and wanted to be a starter, and he wasn't going to be a starter. And once Kentucky kind of got McBride and Usman at the 4, I really don't think they ever really significantly pursued him any harder than the first initial Zoom to gauge interest. So I think Kentucky kind of backed out on him early. And I think I remember saying last show, I'm like, here we are. We're going to fool around again, and we're going to get stuck with Reese Potter getting 15 to 18 minutes a game at the backup 5 spot in the SEC. And I just don't think we can say we're serious about contending. If he's got to play that many minutes, why aren't we going after Devin Williams? Why aren't we contacting Devin Williams? And I remember just kind of going on a little soapbox rant. Well, seems like he heard me and went ahead and committed to Seton Hall. Yeah, I'm getting ready to get there, Peanut. Yeah, and that's what and I think that's hurt us in a lot of people crash, because we pretty well know who our starters are. We're looking for depth pieces. We're looking for backup, people that can give us good quality, solid minutes in the SEC. And a lot of these guys know they can go elsewhere to be a starter, and it's hard to get those guys to lock them down to come in. A lot of people aren't going to go sit the bench at Kentucky when they can go be a starter for Seton Hall. Kentucky's 13th in the SEC in NIL money. Texas is first. I'm a little surprised that Kentucky's 13th. I didn't expect Kentucky to be first, but all right. When the name Kepnang started surfacing on the internet, Big Blue Dylan had kind of came out and said that Kentucky was interested. There was kind of some mutual interest. And not only that, he has since come out and said that he knew the day before that he committed that he'd already committed to the staff, but he didn't want to put that out there to ruin his day, to ruin his moment, to ruin the opportunity. When you announce that commitment, you want to get your flowers for that or whatever. You don't want it already out there because some media guy leaked the fact that he knew it. And Big Blue Dylan, there's a lot of those guys do. They don't reveal their sources, but he, when he came out and said that Kentucky, oh, what is that? Hold on. What happened? Holy crap. Something happened on my end and I'm not for sure what it was, but anyways, he's 25 actually, Holly. Maybe getting ready to turn 26. I don't know. But again, Polachek, of course, I'm down on him right now just because he blocked me. And I know Crash hit the nail on the head when he said it. I picked the wrong day. It was the Stokes commitment day. And I picked the wrong day to go at him. And I really didn't think I was really going at him. But anyways, he blocked me. So, but he kind of put out his little article or on his message board, and I don't pay for the KSR message board, so I usually see when people screenshot and put it to Twitter. But I pay for other message boards. I just don't pay for that one. I should get on there when it's only $1 or whatever, because I do think they have a lot of good information. I just have never really went ahead and done it. So it's not that I'm anti their message board, because that's not the case. I just haven't really done it. But Polachek had kind of put out a message boards post saying that Kentucky wasn't involved with him. There was no involvement. And then just the next day later, he commits. So now there's a few things that can be true here. I think based on the information that Big Blue Dylan gave, based on the information that Big Blue Dylan was given and based on the information that Polachek was given, these guys can have different sources. Although I feel like KSR probably has a lot of the inside sources and a lot of, they've built that reputation. That don't mean that everything they get is 100% true. And that don't mean they get information on every situation. However, I think both of them put out what they felt was true at that time. So I'm not going to, I don't necessarily look at that as, Polachek being wrong, but he was wrong. But I'm not saying I don't think that not every inside source is always going to be 100% correct. Because if that's the case, think about just a few weeks ago when all the inside sources had Rob Wright already committed to Kentucky. Rob Wright was coming to Kentucky. So I think in the world of inside sources, you just you put out there what you feel comfortable putting out there, and sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. But the ones who continue to be trusted are the ones who get them more right than wrong. And I think if you go back and look over time, Kentucky's got several inside writers or writers with sources that get a lot of information correct, more so than they do incorrect, I think. That's a good question, Stanley. And I think he's asking you, Chuck, when you mentioned about Kentucky being 13th and LSU and Texas being first, is that on the money they have available or the amount of money they've already spent? I would assume that's the amount of money they've already spent, right? So Kentucky has spent the 13th most and Texas has spent the first most. Yeah, shout out Big Blue Dylan. Doing the Lord's work there. I wasn't trying to, Chuck. If you watch the first couple of shows on here, you'll realize that I really do like Jacob Paycheck. Is what Crash and Holly told me to call him, and I just didn't know how many people called him that, so I never referred to him as that. But I'm gonna refer to him as Jacob Paycheck. With him being from Kansas and the Stokes commitment and pictures out there of him in Kansas attire, kind of put him in a rough situation. So I understand why his nerves were shot. But all I did was just ask him to explain why he had on a Kansas hoodie. I did not know that he attended Kansas nor graduated from there. So I wasn't really trying to be a smart aleck. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And I figured once he blocked me, that was the reason why, because I didn't cuss him. I didn't disagree with him or whatever. So, I mean, I wasn't like I was trying to purposely be an online troll. Oh, I can't wait for the Kansas game, man. I can't wait. Possibly. Peanut, you've always got a lot of theories. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't, but some of them I just don't know. And this one right there, I just don't know. Texas has not received SEC money yet. Oh, okay. Maybe I misunderstood. Or Oklahoma. We're not getting into that. I'm not getting into that with you, Peanut. I think you come in here sometimes just to try to stir up all the KSR followers. That's B. Did you forget a letter in that? Should that say that's BS? And if so, what's BS? But yeah, there's been a lot of meat. I think we need to do like a, do you all remember that show on MTV several years ago called Celebrity Deathmatch? I think we need to do like a media one in Kentucky and put them in the ring. And I know, but that was a while ago. Forgive and forget. Let's go. Let's all get back. Hey, let's all get back on board. We're Big Blue Nation, brother. Big Blue Nation. We're not Big Blue part-time nation. But speaking of, Holly, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you watched Redneck Brawl. Not highlights. Well, I'll take if you watched any of the Redneck Brawl, give me a 1 in the chat or something. Let me know you watched it. I watched it from 7:30 in the evening till midnight. Icon watched it. Hey, listen, Icon. Gravedigger, the fought in the very first fight, Gravedigger from Moorhead, Kentucky, I taught in 6th grade. Then I saw several from Moorhead in there. It was just, and the main event was kind of anticlimactic. Did you see the main event where we talked about Daryl Hinkle the other night? And, just how he was going into the main event against Randy Neese, who was Daryl's wife's ex-husband. But it's not funny, but Daryl came out like a blazing fury, just throwing. He ended up breaking his leg. Actually broke it in more than one place. It wasn't just his knee. He had to have surgery today. So feel bad for him. The Daryl supporters say he was winning the fight when it happened. The other, of course, Randy Neese supporters saying that Randy knocked him down. I don't think he'd keep his mouthpiece in because he was out of shape, out of breath, kept spitting it out to get a break. Catfish Cooley and Andrew Kahn. I mean, Andrew Kahn's a funny comedian if you never heard any of his stuff, but yeah, good people. I don't know what BKFC is, but guys, if you all never watched Redneck Brawl, the first 45 minutes to an hour is on YouTube under the Redneck Brawl channel. Go watch it. But while Peanut and oh my gosh, one hit, and that was like 30 seconds. Guy slumped, just laid there on the mat. Actually, it was Little Fire that did that. Little Smokey got beat. It was Little Fire that knocked him out. Little Smokey was the guy that got. He was the one that lost in the decision. Later on, Little Fire's his twin brother that knocked that dude out. That dude leaned in and he hit him right there underneath the chin, right there. Wow. There was, you know what? As far as Redneck Brawl 13 goes, I will say this before I move on. As far as Redneck Brawl 13 goes, honestly, there was more knockouts in that show than what I've seen in the other 12 combined. But all these media people do stuff. I don't know why that's such a big thing about you know, I agree with you. That's why I'm not as upset about it. But, me and Matt Jones got into an argument in over DM on Twitter for me saying that he posted some clickbait. I don't need to see the video link. I believe you, but yeah, I remember the Tough Man. We have people from here where I live participate. And I'll be honest with you. Oh, I got you, Chuck. I'll be honest with you guys. It's no joke. I'm tired of hearing about JMI. And I know, I think it was Crash that explained to us why women's basketball and football weren't seem to having the same recruiting problems as men's basketball was. But but we can't continue to blame everything on JMI going forward. We know that's the situation. We know that's the boat we're in. We've got to make it work. But anyways, the 2026 NBA draft lottery happened today. Washington Wizards get the number 1 pick. So Anthony Davis and Trae Young's going to find out who gets to play with them. All signs are pointing to Diabonsta right now being the number 1 overall pick. That kid's expressions, I can't seem to get a read on. I don't know what he's thinking, what he's feeling. But, he kind of had the look on his face like Washington may have not been where he wanted to go. Couple other things that I kind of thought, number 2, I don't know who they're speculating to be the number 2 pick, but I do know Carlos Boozer works for the Utah Jazz. I don't know if they'll let, I don't think Cameron Boozer's the second best player in the draft from an NBA standpoint. But what I wanted to point out about the draft lottery is just to kind of, whenever we hear kind of the NBA draft now, we immediately start thinking and speculating about Malachi Marino and, what he is and where he's going. And it's kind of like, and this right here, I think is Yahoo again. But if you remember the Yahoo mock draft that came out just a couple days ago had him 24th. The one today has him being the 9th pick of the second round. So that should ease a lot of your all's minds. Because if he's the 9th pick of the second round, he's coming back to Kentucky. But as I told you all last show, I think he's coming back to Kentucky anyhow. And there's somebody else in the going through the testing the waters of the NBA draft combine right now. Somebody that Kentucky's looking at. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Who's that guy Kentucky's looking at? That's in the. Oh yeah. Mother's Day. Oh yeah. Mom Chilovich. He's actually ranked a little bit lower than Marino. Mom Chilovich is ranked, or not ranked, I should say, but he's actually the 11th pick of the second round. So, I think it's pretty safe that Marino and Mommy both being, around the 10th pick of the second round, which gets you in around the 40 range, 41, I'd say anywhere between 38, 42 range. So I would expect him, I'd expect both of them to come back, but here's the difference. We're probably not going to hear about either one of them coming back until the last minute. Marino may drop out and announce sooner than Momcilovic, just because, we already know where he's at. He's already committed to coming back to Kentucky once he withdraws his name. And I think, it's been pretty well common knowledge, I would say, that Marino is coming back. But Momcilovic, I think he's going to draw this all the way out till May 27th. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong for Big Blue Nation's sake. I don't know if we sometimes have the patience, or this may be God's way of teaching us patience. A lot of times when we know we got somebody, or there's somebody out there that we need, I'm not even going to say we want him, we need him. Then we want it just to happen. We want it to happen now. We want it to happen overnight. I expect him to be all the way to the last day of May 27th, which, that's the day I get out of school. That's our graduation date. So nothing more I would love to close out the 2026 school year with a mommy commitment to Kentucky. I got a comment for that too. Yeah, I'm not buying that. How many draft picks do we have? It feels like, what do you mean on the 2027 draft? Is that what you're thinking? Amen. Amen. I get it 100%. So, well, let's talk about who do we think our draft picks are. Zoom's go play in the league. I can see Cam, Hawthorne, Marino, Usman. 5-ish. I don't know. 5-ish. Is that what we're thinking? Wilkins, I agree. Wilkins a pro. Will Zoom be a pro? See, here's what I like about you, Kentucky. Here's what I like about you. You're already including Mommy in our draft picks. You're already including him. You know he's coming. You know he's coming, right? And they may have. I don't know what their deal is, but I don't think Zion Hawthorne is an NBA guy right now, Icon. So I know you're probably speaking of them as a package deal, but that's right. Speaking into existence, manifesting. I get it. Peanuts has our whole starting 5. Ooh, I guess we'll wait and see. I think he has a good idea. I think he probably knows down to 2 or 3. And I think it'll just be a lot of, yeah, but I think he's definitely NBA future. Zoom's the one I'm iffy about. Icon, I know you were late getting in here, but I done went on a rant about this. I said all those people that were on Kentucky last year about their $22 million roster, whether they were national media, local media, whatever they were, casual fan, when these 15 to 20 teams that have all spent 20 or more $1 million on their roster this year, they better keep that same energy. They better keep that same energy because it's going to happen. Tell them, Holly. Tell them. I agree 100%. But you know what it'll be? It'll be there'll be excuses that Kentucky fans that weren't good enough for Kentucky fans, but these other schools will use them to be okay. Like for example, a lot of Kentucky fans thought this year that, it was kind of a down year due to our injuries. And I agree. Our injuries didn't help us. I agree. At the end of the day, you still got to win basketball games. But next year, you wait. There will be a big-time program that may suffer something from an injury or whatever. And those people that were on Kentucky about making excuses are going to make the same excuse for their program. But it's okay then because it's their program. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen. I wish I was better about keeping receipts, but I don't have much space left on my cell phone as it is. I definitely cannot be keeping screenshots of all these idiot fan bases that say nonsense stuff. He's going to get drafted, Icon. They draft on potential, even if it's a year or two away. He's athletic enough, and his body's NBA ready. He's athletic enough that somebody's going to take a flyer on him, and it's going to be in the first round too. Miles, good seeing you, my man. Thanks for being here. If you're new, please give me a subscribe. Do you think the high school player is going to reclassify and play for Kentucky? Hampton. I don't think he'll be on our roster next year. I think if he reclassifies, and I don't have any information on this. I just know with us just signing Kepnong, I know we do have 2 spots available. If we are truly thinking that we have a chance to get Mommy or Mom Chill, and I do think we do, then I don't see Hampton. If he reclassifies this year, I don't see him coming to Kentucky unless he's willing to take a little less money and that he just wants to be here. I would say that Kentucky's probably trying to get him to stay in the class of 27. I don't know. Other people, you all can probably weigh in on that as well. But Miles, thanks for joining, man. Thanks for showing up. I'm glad you're here. Oh, there's some, okay. I know we are, but hey, good seeing you, my man. Thanks for stopping by. I'm sure we'll be here for 30 more minutes or so, but I'm not staying on till midnight, 1 a.m. tonight. It's Sunday. I got to start my work week off with a little bit of energy. Now, as the week goes on, I can see another 3 or 4 hour stream coming. You guys are great. Love it. Yeah, I do. I think he perfectly fits in the offense that Pope wants to run, but I also think that, we have other people who are capable of running that spot or in that maybe not run it as well or not as good but I definitely think we're going to see, this past year, I'm not 100% sure that I can remember too many sets that Kentucky ran. And that's what I was excited about after year 1, going from Cal, who liked that positionless basketball, who liked to rely on players to create and dribble drive stuff. And then you get Pope in year 1 and you're seeing the zoom action. You're seeing these backdoor cuts. You're seeing run the offense through the 5 position. I was like, man, this is great. This is a huge adjustment for what I'm used to watching. And then year 2 with the personnel we had or the personnel that he chose to have or signed. You know, we just didn't. I don't think we had the right pieces to run those sets. But what are we coming on for, Chuck? What'd I say wrong? Thursday night is probably going to be the night, Holly, that we have the marathon streams, just because I can tough it through one day, a Friday. You know what I'm saying? I can make it through a Friday. However, I can do that. Right, and I think that was Cal's offense. Go make a play. You know, and early on at Kentucky, and we had guys that could go make plays, and for whatever reason, later in Cal's year, I just don't think the top guys in the country were as good as what he had in the past, and just weren't capable of beating their man off a dribble consistently enough to get to the rim, or lob it up to somebody in that dunker spot. But I can't tonight. Sorry, Chuck. I got work tomorrow. My performance has to be on point. I'm not going to say he's one-dimensional, because I don't necessarily agree with that. But he's not beating. I don't know. I think he's the position we need, because you're getting a knockdown shooter with him. But I've seen enough highlights of him to where he's doing, taking people to the post, Larry Bird fadeaways from the mid post area. I don't think he's one-dimensional at all. But I think if something happens, we don't get mommy, and we have to play small. You can see Cam maybe playing the 4, Hawthorne maybe 4 or whatever. But I think he's better than Kobe Brea. I could be wrong. We got a great year out of Kobe. Don't get me wrong. I just think mommy's a better player. Oh, I love talking to everybody too, Chuck. That's the only reason I do it. That's the only reason I do it. John Wayne or Clint Eastwood? That's a good question. I think I would go with Clint Eastwood. I know John Wayne's the Duke, but what were those assassin type movies with Eastwood? Or no, it wasn't Eastwood. Who was it? Charles Bronson, I'm thinking of. Never mind. I'm thinking of Charles Bronson. Yeah, I mean, he may not, but I think he's also mobile enough that he can attack a closeout. If somebody's closing out strong to run him off, I think he can attack a closeout. If he's a one-dimensional player, then he does that dimension really, 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 really well. Oh, I'm thinking of the Death Wish series by Charles Bronson. Y'all ever seen those? Gran Torino's my favorite. Nuke, welcome back, my man. Glad to have you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. So I guess, I can, off my big board here, I can mark off Devin Williams. He signed with Seton Hall. I can also add Kepnang to our roster. And I think and here's the thing, and this is what I'm telling you that kind of bothers me about Big Blue Nation. When Cal was here and he would recruit the high school ranks fierce, he'd get 3 of the top 5 players in the country. He'd get the number 1 recruiting class multiple times. And everybody would say, what's coming. You know what they'd say? I wish we'd get some older guys. You can't win a title with freshmen. You can't win. You need some other people. You need older guys. You need veterans. And now what do you think's going on? Pope's recruiting people out of the portal. I mean, a lot of these guys are 23 to 26 years old. And what do you think those same people are saying now? Well, I wish he could get a freshman out of high school. I wish he could get Stokes, or I wish he could get somebody elite from high school. Remember the Mizzou game supposed to go to Cam? He was open, but yeah, herself. Are you talking about Yelovich? Why do you call her herself? Or am I missing something here? Are you being facetious? Are you taking jabs at our Kentucky guys? And Yelovich was one of my favorites last year, so I know you're not taking jabs at him. But low, okay, sorry. I see it now. Okay. Why do you call Jay why do you call him a her? Come on, Peanut. Stop it. Stop it. Has anybody heard, I think what I'm looking forward to most here in the next coming week or so, and I don't know if Pope will address it in one of the videos this week. I know he's going to put another video out tomorrow, but I want to see if anybody gave him any ideas from where they'd like to see Kentucky play this year, ever since Jerusalem was kind of nixed due to the war zone or, things going on. But I wish that I'm curious to see who, what other places maybe he might drop a little nugget about what other places are considering, or at least give us some ideas of places that people have recommended. I don't know what areas have, like that, have basketball all summer long. Yeah, I mean that's that's valid. Peanut taking shots at our guy that came back. He tried to play through a torn shoulder, and Peanut's still making fun of him. Although I do think Jalen Lowe has some of those features that, Mommy's family is from Serbia, right? Is that a war zone? I don't know the inner political workings of Serbia, but I'd say it's probably not 100% safe over there at any point in time. Tombstone's one of my favorite shows. A lot of good one-line comedy in there. I'm just putting them all up here on the screen, the ones I see and the ones I can get, Crash. Didn't we go to Canada one year, or haven't we already been to Canada? Because didn't we play like, what was that? I agree, Ryan Young. We might have set something up. We need to do a tell of the tape. We need to do a weigh-in. That's what I'm thinking of. You're right. Global Jam. Yep. Yeah, we have, really. Canada's been good to us. Jamal Murray. Guys, you think you all can direct message me your all's weigh in and do a promo video of, how you're going to whoop the other one? And, that's what they do at Redneck Brawl. We'll do it right here on the Stay Hot Network. I'll even, after you guys send me your promo, You do a weigh in, a tell of the tape type thing, height, weight, reach, like Holly says. Height, weight, reach, let's go. You all send me all that stuff. I'll make a graphic of it. Then I'll put a poll in the chat, and we'll let our chat vote on who would win between Peanut and Crash, just based on tell of the tape. Scout, was he Canadian? I thought he was from somewhere else. Shay was Canadian. Jamal McGlure, good answer. I knew Murray was. We wanted Andrew Wiggins. He was Canadian because they used to call him the Maple Jordan. Let me see here. I didn't think he was from Canada. Scal wasn't from Canada. He was from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He was from Haiti. He played high school in Evangelical Christian School in Memphis. Bernard Cote. Yes, Canadian. What about Sheree Thomas? Where was Sheree Thomas from? Sheree Thomas was from Montreal. No. Yes. Where did I pull that name out of? What's up, Unicorn? Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you and your sister. I've not seen Terry on here tonight, but hope you guys had a great day. Sucks you just got off work, but hope you had a great Mother's Day anyhow, and thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate you coming by every chance you get. Peanut, are you willing to do a tell of the tape, age, height, weight, reach versus Crash? And we'll set it up. We can maybe invite you two on screen for an on-screen. We'll determine the winner by maybe Rochambeau or rock, paper, scissors. And I'll put you all on the screen. Like I'll be really, really small like this, and I can try to put you two bigger over there to where you all can maybe do an online a live stream promo to the other one. But yeah, definitely thank you for your service. I agree with that. Years ago at a wrestling Bowling Green for beating up 3 WWE. All right, that was years ago, Crash. That don't mean nothing now. You two step in the ring, it's on like Donkey Kong. It's not Ron Mercer. It's Roy D. Mercer. How big old boy are you? Roy D. Mercer. Yeah, and I can tell you all about Roy D. Oh, do we want to set it up like a political debate centered around KSR? I figured it was a typo, Holly. Oh, they'll have fun. It's all in good fun. We have a really, 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 really good chat here and a group of loyal followers. Definitely not anything I expected when I started this was to have this kind of, just this kind of following with, meeting people online and spending more time and interaction with them more than people you went to school with or people you graduated with. It's just, online, just another animal, but I enjoy every bit of it. Hey, she's married. And the moment she becomes unmarried, she's mine. So you back off. Back off. Don't make me put up these hands. Not always, but you know, we all have our moments. Crash, come on now. Come on. That's right. So, Holly, tell him the moment you become unmarried, I got dibs. Let me see what's going on the Twitter world today. I keep telling myself that with it being Mother's Day, mommy's going to surprise us, but he's in Chicago right now. So, what was the fight the other night? I don't remember what fight it was. We fight on here every night. If you're talking about the one between me and Crash, I won. Hey, I am married to the game, but I'm like Mark Pope. I'm polygamist. I'm just kidding. Mark Pope does not practice polygamy. I'm just kidding. It's just a joke because we had to talk about Mormons the other night. Not all Mormons do practice polygamy. No, me and Crash talked about it. I mean, I understood what he was saying, and that's the one thing you'll find out about me on here, guys. I mean, you're going to disagree with me some. I'm going to disagree with you some, but we can talk about it. I'm not ever going to. Oh, listen, Cricket. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, Cricket. Hold on. Let me just show y'all something. We talked about this, but let me just go ahead and let me find out. All right, just so you all have an idea, you know, when I told you about the redneck brawl, this is Daryl Hinkle. He went to throw a punch, and his knee just buckled. And they originally thought he first just hurt his knee, ended up breaking his leg, and had to have surgery today. So, and that was in like the start of the second round. So he'd actually only fought like a minute and 20 seconds. So, guy, the guy's probably that guy's probably questioning his decision to take part in the redneck brawl, but kind of feel sorry for him. He was coming out in a blaze of fire, throwing punches left and right, giving them hell. Both of them just kind of beating the tar out of each other, and then he just something kind of funny turned in his knee, and he went down immediately, and it was just over. Crash, you just always seem to explain it a little bit better. Yeah, Holly, it was rough. But I will tell you this. There were some funny things. There was about 28 or 29 fights. There's a ring girl contest. The ring girl contest was won by the same girl for, I think, the third straight. And it's all by crowd applause. But the name of the ring girl that won, she calls herself Cardi EBT. I thought that was clever as all get out. Cardi EBT. Yeah. It'd be awful bad if somebody came out and said they told him before he entered the ring to break a leg, you know, kind of good luck, break a leg, and he took it literal. Well, to hear everybody talk on social media, all he did was scam people. Well, Chuck, prayers that you stay healthy, my man. Prayers that you stay healthy. Peanut, I mean, seriously though, I mean, isn't KSR giving? I mean, why do you get all upset over KSR wanting clicks when everybody does it? I know you all got it started, and I'm gonna have to listen to it. I'll reach out to Lance, see if I can get him to be the. I don't agree with this, Chuck. I think Matt, Drew, Ryan, Shannon, Billy, Mario. I think first and foremost, they're fans like us, and you don't think for 1 minute that they don't get frustrated with what goes on with that program after games, before games, wins, losses, whatever. And why are they not allowed to voice their opinion? Because they're on the radio? I mean, and like Peanut said, we shouldn't get worked up over different people's opinions. Now, we can't hold KSR to a different standard just because they have a lot more followers and listeners. This right here is funny. That's funny. Lance does a good job. I don't like Matt because he talks over everyone that knows. That's frustrating for me, but that doesn't change my perception of him as far as liking or disliking him. I like Matt because I think he's a Kentuckian at heart. He cares about the entire state of Kentucky. When we have natural disasters, tornadoes, or whatever, and some people in our state are struggling, I think Matt does a very good job of raising money, things like that. I think Matt cares about the state of Kentucky. I don't think there's any question about that. But, just because he has 330 some thousand Twitter followers and gets a damn good, I guess audience on his call-in show or whatever, doesn't mean that we should not like him for things that he says. If he was doing a podcast like me and said something like that, nobody would even know. Calling our point guard trying to come back from a shoulder injury, calling out our point guard is trying to screw with the program. And that's what I was just getting at. Stuff like that probably does hurt the perception of the program, but the only people seeing that are the 90 people that are watching, because Matt Jones has 330 some thousand followers. 330 some thousand people are probably reading what he says. But yeah, Holly, the talking over does get annoying, and also the kind of cutting them off, appreciating their call, that stuff. But my biggest beef, if you ask me what my biggest beef with Matt Jones would be, it would be that he gets a caller to call in. They're allowed. He gives them a chance to kind of say what they want, and then he kind of talks over them and don't really give them a chance to respond. Talks over them, then appreciates their call, then they don't really get a chance to. But if you can't tell by watching the show, Matt's a control freak. That show is his baby. He's going to run that show how he sees fit. If a few of us quit listening or watching it because of that, he still has 332,840. He did go to Duke Law School, but he's a Kentuckian. He grew up in Eastern Kentucky. I didn't say he went to the University of Kentucky. I said he's a Kentuckian. I think he generally cares about the people of Kentucky. Now, you're welcome to debate me on that, and I'll go at you with it, and you may win or whatever, but I didn't say he went to the University of Kentucky. I said he was a Kentuckian. He went to Middlesboro. And it's okay that you didn't believe in Lowe from the time we signed. I'm not going to say that, Peanut. That's ignorance. But, I mean, I don't know what kind of belief I have in some of the people we've signed this year. I've appreciated Matt's call one time when I called in. He was cutting me off, and I just said, appreciate the call, and hung up myself. Chris, that guy showed up on my timeline again on Facebook, guys. Listen, some things aren't going to change. KSR is going to do things occasionally to trigger you, to make you want to click on their article. The skies are going to be blue. The grass is going to be green. Peanut and Crash are going to argue about KSR most shows. But the one thing we can bond around, and the one thing that we can come back together as a fan base about, is Chris Adams. I'm not 100% sure that I've seen anyone in our fan base or claims to be a member of the Big Blue Nation that is like that guy. He's definitely one of a kind for me. No, I think he likes Kentucky. The part I question about him is that if you disagree with him, or no, I don't question his loyalty to Cal. I question his loyalty to Kentucky. I don't question it to Cal. He loves Cal. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. You say something about Cal, you're going to feel Chris Adams. That's what I'm saying. That's the thing. I mean, and that was the one thing I thought that I really, really liked about Calipari. I had my beef with Cal. I thought it was time for Cal to go. But you tell me another coach that raised the amount of money for flood victims, tornado victims, just for the people of Kentucky, than Calipari. You're not going to find somebody that did that any more than what Cal did. Yes, he's the Cal Glazer. Yes, yes, yes. I'm assuming you're still talking about I'm sure you're still talking about Matt Jones, and I just can't get behind this. I can't get behind this take, Chuck. I don't, like I said, I don't listen to every KSR show like I used to. But I don't, because Matt Jones. So you think Matt Jones should get on the air and lie about the programs and just say things that aren't true just so the fan base will? Come on now. Come on, Chuck. I think you're more reasonable than that. I like Cal a lot, and I thought he was a good coach, definitely a Hall of Fame coach. I don't know if that proved it to me or not, but I'm sure that's something that probably Chris Adams has said. Now, that statement I'll get behind 100%. I think it was time for both of them to go. And I definitely know Stoops brought the football program to new heights, considering where it was when I was born and where it is, where it was as I was kind of growing up. But that statement right there, I have to give you your dues. A lot of people don't like to listen to him, and I understand that, but I don't think so. But all right, Chuck. Matt Jones has to make a living too, right? He's not hired by the university. He started his own radio show in his garage in Louisville, about Kentucky instead of going to be a lawyer when he scored 1 point from perfect on his bar exam at Duke Law School. So this is his job. This is his livelihood. So his job is to make money. But I don't look at that as backstabbing. When I listen to Matt Jones, I want him to be honest with me. I want him to tell me what's going on behind the scenes if things ain't right. Holly's great. Chuck, I'm glad you're here participating in the chat too. I love the conversation. I definitely love when some of us disagree. I think it makes for better show, better conversation. That's right. And look, and he's still with it. Now listen. That, here's why I didn't respond the same way to you. Was your name Jacob? Joshua? I know it started with a J. Now listen, there is a difference in love you, Holly, and I love you, Holly. Love you, Holly is what friends would say to each other. There's no really strong commitment there because he didn't say I. He just said, love you, Holly. That was friends. You were full-fledged, like you were ready to move in with her. You were trying to get your room set up and everything. Now, hey. Right. Right. And here's the thing. When you have the fan base he has, the number I'm saying, it doesn't matter what he says or does, he's going to have hate. They're going to throw shade his way. So it's kind of like anything else nowadays. Something you say or do is going to trigger someone or another to where to create some kind of an emotional response, or there's going to be something, going to trigger you. But I listen to it for more than just the Kentucky stuff, but he definitely took advantage of an opportunity. Definitely. And I think, and that's kind of what, and I don't have a Josh. Okay. Hey, I got Holly's back. I do feel like, but what I won't agree with him on is, it still happens, every day that somebody, if Kentucky expressed interest in the portal or Kentucky gets a commitment from Frank Kepnong, the first initial response, oh, he's a 3-star, he sucks, NIT, just because they don't know who he is. Just because we're taking guys like that in the portal doesn't mean that we've accepted a lower standard or a lower expectation. But I do think that as a whole, the expectations at the university have lowered some. I agree. It did start on Cal's watch. I'm not going to say he didn't care, but I think the fan base started getting to him. The noise started getting to him. Check your Wi-Fi, Holly. Check your Wi-Fi. Does it say FBI? If it says FBI Wi-Fi near, then yes, be concerned. Otherwise, it's all right. Yeah, I think it's an ice cream. I think it's an ice cream van, Holly. I think with the NIL and the portal era, the way it is and as wild and just lucrative money that's being passed around from program. I mean, look at BYU. You used to never really hear about BYU. Now they're spending the most money, or they're spending a lot of money in NIL every year. I think there's just a lot more parity now in college basketball. And to expect a Sweet 16 is okay, but to expect a Final Four or national championship every year is just unrealistic to me. Yes. Big Blue Nation is loving Stein right now because he's getting commitments. He's getting players. Maybe his players are good enough for the schedule that's in front of him this year. I find that hard to believe, honestly. I just think there's going to be an adjustment period. If you remember when Stoops first came to Kentucky, he killed the recruiting right off the bat too. He killed it, recruited people, got them in here. And, we had several great years, 10-win seasons, so many straight bowl games, things like that. Everybody's loving Stein right now. He's saying the right things. I don't know if y'all heard the Stein story from today, but there was a commitment. Not a commitment, a commit that shared that Will Stein sent a Happy Mother's Day video to all the mothers of the players in this class that have committed already. So, stuff like that. It's the little things that matter. And I think that's stuff that Pope can be really good at too. But I think what's going to ultimately decide it, Stanley, is the results on the field. If they're winning games, they'll love Stein. The moment they lose a game they shouldn't lose, or say they lose 2 or 3 in a row, it's going to be, we hired this guy to coach. This guy can't coach a lick. How much money are we paying him? Hey, now, that's not funny. I do know that. Chuck, I hope you know we're just kidding, brother. Or I am anyhow. I can't speak for Holly and Crash, but you didn't offend me. Just kind of carrying on with what the conversation is. In every sport, it's not just basketball. Football's tough. Baseball, it all is. I see top 3 SEC, top 10 nationally. All I can say to that, Kel, is I hope you're right. I'm not going to agree or disagree with that statement right now, just because I feel like, the SEC is brutal. It's brutal. It's hard. It's tough. It's, I see Stein getting us there eventually. I don't see us making a bowl game, or I guess I should say the playoff system or whatever this year. I don't see us making it this year. I think recruiting football and recruiting basketball are 2 totally different things. Now, relationship building, rapport, communication, things like that, there may be some similarities, but I think there's a different approach. Yeah, I don't think that was a good move. I honestly didn't know until he came out and spoke. I honestly didn't know if it was totally up to Mark Pope to hire the GM. I didn't know if that was a school decision. I didn't know if that was like a president, an AD decision. I didn't really know. But it seems to me from that video and him announcing the general management team like he did, it seems to me like it's all on him. I'm not going there yet, because I think a lot of that will be decided on the results on the court. If he has a good year this year, then I expect him to be around for year 4. And the reason is, I don't know if you were here when I've talked about this, with a new athletic director, I don't think his first big business wants to be getting rid of a men's basketball coach at Kentucky and have to put on a coaching search to find a new one. I don't think he wants that to be his first job on campus. Hey, I'm not going negative. I said, I hope. I just, I don't like to put that top 3, 10 nationally label and, till I see some results on the floor. I just think that puts unnecessary pressure on the teams, the players. Oh, I know. I watched today, 5-0. Shut him out on Mother's Day. Andrew Abbott, baby. First time I've seen him pitch that well this year. Peanut, if I just hurt the perception of the program by saying that I didn't feel like Kentucky was a top 3 football team this year in the SEC and top 10 nationally, if that change the perception of our program for people. I'm sorry, but as a host of a show that doesn't have anywhere near 332,000 followers, subscribers, or viewers, I doubt many people are going to hear that, or that's going to be a big deal. That's the thing to me, Jake, is it's not necessarily that we lost some games. It's how we lost those games. Some of those blowouts are just unacceptable. Unacceptable. No, tell me, what is the stipulation in his contract about extension and I can see them, hold on. I can see them making a bowl. I just don't think it'll be in the FCS playoff or whatever that's called, BCS, bullcrap stuff, whatever. Do you all know the movie Home Alone, where at the end, when you've got Macaulay Culkin or or McAllister or wherever his name is, and he's up there looking out the window and he sees a guy across the street scraping the snow with a shovel, and you can hear that sound. I hear that outside my window right now. I don't know what in the world's going on. So if I don't make it to the next show, Holly, come check on me. This spot on. I agree. Ratings is just a projection. However, at the end of the day, they got to win some games. And if they win some games, some of those big time wins will make up for some of the losses. They're not going 40-0. Clyde, that's enough. Yep, that's what we said. Yeah, boo Yankees. The reason I still believe in Pope is the game he won against Duke and at Arkansas. I believe he will pull this off. I believe he will pull this off this year against all odds. I definitely think if it comes down to a situation where it comes down to coaching, I like Pope's in-game coaching. I like his adjustments. I like the sets he runs, the sets after timeouts. I think Pope does a great job at that. Just, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and it's not just the recruiting class he brings in. It's not just the portal. There's a lot of other different things that play into that, but I think he has showed us in 2 years that he can coach. I mean, but there's a lot of different levels and aspects of coaching, not just the X's and O's. But JJ and Pawpaw, I don't know if it's your first time here or not. If it is, please subscribe. Thank you for being here. Thank you for chatting. I appreciate you participating. Yeah, probably. I just think there were some of those games, Stanley, that, and I'm not talking about like maybe where Evansville was, like the rankings. Excuse me. See, that tells you I'm gonna have to be done here in a minute. I'm already getting tired. That tells me that, or what I'm talking about is when I say yes, I'm not talking about teams ranked worse than Evansville. I'm just talking about how the game played out. There's some of those games that we were never really truly in it from the start. Like we were getting our butt handed to us at LSU 18-3. If not for a miracle lucky play, yeah, I'm gonna call it lucky play, where Marino hits Chandler hits Marino, and he makes a 17-foot jump shot or whatever at the buzzer. Yeah, I'm not getting behind this go Yankees talk or any of this go Yankees, go Knicks. I won't watch another NBA game the rest of the year. My Celtics got beat in the first round to the awful, pitiful 76ers, who didn't even put up a fight against the Knicks. Spineless jellyfish. They never put up much of a fight. I am tired, David. I am tired, buddy. Yeah, the Gonzaga game is one of them that just like I feel like Miracle LSU win smashed by the Zags. There were just a few games this year that I don't feel like Kentucky was ever in. I'm not having that nonsense talk. All right, Crash, what are we talking about here? You referenced our casual disagreement, and earlier in the show, you said that if Pope gets Mom at the table, he needs to explain how down the program is and how much he can help her. Yeah, well, I mean, part of your issue was that Derek Anderson hurt potential recruiting by painting the program in a negative light. Right. Okay, I'm following you. Damn. Not necessarily. I can see what you're saying, and I can see that, but what I'm saying is, when I say that, I mean like the recruiting pitch has to be something that can let these players know just how Big Blue Nation is, and if he's the guy that comes in and saves Pope's job, because a lot of people think that this year's make or break, how he's going to be received or perceived by Big Blue Nation is what I'm talking about. Thought there was some selfishness at times, definitely between Aberdeen and Oway, but I don't think their mindset or goal was to be selfish. I think it was a sense of desperation. Pope can flat out coach. Yeah, he's killed us two games. Yeah, I mean, I get it. We did, but I'm not saying Pope's a bad coach. I don't. I think he's a great coach as far as in-game stuff. But there's also areas of his coaching game that need work. No, I like it. I like you bringing that up. I have no problem with that at all. And it may sound like contradictory, and that's not what my goal was. But I think what I was trying to mention earlier was, oh, I get a Crash. It's just, but it just makes for a good show when, and I think sometimes, I don't always have the words to say what I mean, but like when you go in there and you go to close a deal with a recruit, I think you have to take whatever approach is necessary. And I don't think some of these guys or some of these players necessarily know, like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to think of the right words, like, I told y'all I have trouble with memory since my health issue, but like for example, Santos and Israel or wherever he went. When you get the guy at the table, if that's a guy you truly want, then you need to explain to them the program. Santos probably remembers Kentucky being really good at one time, but I doubt he follows the landscape of college basketball to a degree of knowing just how much we've struggled this year as a whole. We will beat Kansas. I'm saying will. I'm not going to say, I know you said it too, but we're beating Kansas. I think a lot of it is, I just don't think we had the right pieces this year, and with the injuries, we just didn't. It just never gelled. Yeah, I saw your stipulations. I wasn't aware of those. I'll put them back up on the screen. But here's the stipulations, I guess, for Pope's contract. So So this year, Sweet 16's 50,000 plus a 1-year extension. I definitely think we're going to the Sweet 16 this year. So, but it doesn't really matter as far as stipulations go. If they want to fire him, they can. They just got to buy out his contract. I know this is the season to put in a baseball analogy. Pulling for Mark Pope to turn it around is this: bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, the tying run on base with 3-2 count. See, I don't know if it's that desperate. There's people in here that know more about the Kentucky program than I do, and they could probably, kind of speak on this comment here. But my question, JJ, would be, I think my question would be, would you consider a good year that determines whether or not that gets him another year? What does Pope have to do in Big Blue Nation's eyes? And in some people's eyes, no matter what he does, is not going to be enough. But what does he have to do this year in order to see him next year? What would be a good year to you that you'd be on board for bringing him back? Yeah, but it was right after we beat the number 1 team in the country by 30 some, or whatever however how much we beat them. I got you. That's all it is now, business. I can see Pope putting a big old boom box up on his, walking in, jamming. Yeah, but that's what they indicate. But like I said, if he has a bad year, it doesn't really matter what that contract says. I'm sure there's a buyout in there. I don't either, Crash. I really don't. Less than 10 losses. A lot of you are saying Elite 8. Nope. Pope beat Kansas at BYU with much worse teams when Kansas had much better teams than what he's going to have this year. We're beating Kansas. I don't care if I got to go there and give a pep talk myself. So I guess you're saying that a national championship then is the only thing that's going to work. We've been living in that double-digit range. I give you that. I disagree with that. No, I don't think a new AD wants to hire a new coach at a program like Kentucky as his very first thing on the job. A new guy coming in trying to make the fan base happy when he's getting every name in the book thrown at him. Go get Pearl. Go get Donovan. Go get they say, people are saying that now like it's easy. Like just because Kentucky wants you, you're going to get you. And, we found out in the portal, it's not like that anymore. It's not like that in recruiting, and it's not like that with coaches. A lot of coaches don't want the unnecessary pressure at Kentucky that the fans put on them. I can get on board with those. Top 2 or 3 in the SEC, play into Saturday or Sunday in the conference. I think it'll be tough for us to be in the top 2 or 3 in the SEC just because the SEC is strong, but I definitely think we're capable. I don't think he gets fired, but like I said, Yeah, the NIL is just NIL's made it a lot harder to win. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what your definition of succeed is as opposed to what the definition of succeed is at the University of Kentucky. I mean, I don't know. Definitely following a Hall of Fame coach never made it easy, especially if you look what Cal did his first 10 years here. That's what I mentioned. That's what I was talking about. We can't just go out and say, here's the coach we want. We're going to get him. Because I think we saw that last year with a couple coaches that we went after. Yeah, I got you. I don't know if that was to somebody else or not, but contractually, that's the key word there. That was rough. Now, I can still see Jack Golke. Causes me nightmares seeing him come off those screens hitting just. And I think if you watch the next game or two, he struggled to make a shot. I think that was part of the problem too. You know, this year we played on Wednesday for the first time ever. So that's another strike. And did we beat Oklahoma in the first round of the SEC tournament? We beat Oklahoma, right? And then we lost. How'd the SEC tournament play out? Beat Oklahoma, and then who we lose to? We lost to LSU in the SEC tournament. We beat Missouri. Yeah, that's that guy from Duke, that Mark Edwards or whatever I think his name was. He had a hell of a game against us. And then we lost to Florida, which, I don't think we could have expected. Florida was good. I've told you all since day one, I'm on the Jay Lucas train just because of I think he's proven he can coach. And I think you got to have somebody on staff that starts building these connections with these AAU elite high school athletes, freshman, sophomore year. I don't think you can wait till they're seniors or juniors and jump on late and get into the mix late and think, oh, we're Kentucky. We can jump in whenever we want and still get a legit opportunity to. Oh, so that's right. We played. Okay. We'll just have to monitor what Mike Malone does at UNC. Spotlight programs might have to go for NBA coaches now. College basketball is getting more. It is getting more and more like the NBA. That is the truth. It's becoming more of a business than it is amateur. Agree. And the one thing I thought was interesting was, and of course, when Pope gave his address to the Big Blue Nation when he got hired, 25,000 people filled Rupp Arena. It's pretty safe to say that he knew what talking points to hit, what talking points to discuss. He knew what to mention. And one of the things he focused on was, we care about the SEC tournament. Let's bring back SEC tournament banners here. We care about that. So, which I'm not going to lie, that was good for me to hear as well. But we need to start showing some success in there. And playing on Wednesday wasn't I love Jay Lucas. I mean, hell, look on the women's side. Kenny Brooks just got a commitment from a girl who was drafted in the top 10 in the WNBA. Now, I'm not saying the WNBA is the same as the NBA, but we've got guys. Alabama played a guy who played in NBA games. Yeah, but it was just, the first couple shows we did and we were talking about Pope, everybody was on the either Bruce Pearl or Billy Donovan, but hopefully now that Billy Donovan's probably going to end up in Orlando again, hopefully I don't have to hear his name anymore. I'm not a Donovan fan. Probably not. I mean, they won their first round game, didn't they? Let me look up their Miami Hurricanes men basketball. Miami Hurricanes men basketball. They beat Missouri 80-66 and lost by 10 to Purdue in the second round. So they beat Missouri and then lost to Purdue. Yep. Crash waited till I say it, then he commented it, so it looks like he knew. Right, but I also think they're also, I think that's true, but I also think there's some out there that don't want ever to admit that Pope does any wrong, and that because he played at Kentucky, has a passion for Kentucky, that he should be our coach no matter what happens. And a lot of the fans out there don't want to take any Pope criticism, and I think he definitely deserves some criticism. Players aren't the only ones using us as leverage, I can tell you. I'm not saying Donovan's not a good coach. I'm not a Donovan fan as a person. I don't want anybody that's ever been at Florida to be our coach. And this is going to be the new excuse too, when we lose out on a recruit. Well, because I already saw it when people was asking about some other people. Not everybody's going to use us as leverage, but it's going to happen. Yeah, but I think that's going to happen with every coach because of the position. It happens to me at the high school level, girls high school basketball, so that's going to happen, and you're never going to be able to defend him enough because it continues to happen. I don't know if I agree with that statement. Who will the 5-and-5 rules apply to? I honestly don't think that. I mean, that's not even passed yet, has it? If it passes, it would be players who are about to enter their freshman, or like when they turn 19, or their 19th birthday. Everyone going forward, I think. But let me ask you this, Icon. Like, you just said, that's how the people are. So why do you waste your energy against those same type fans when you're not going to convince them or change them? Well, so it's basically what you just said. For every time he does a Sweet 16, he gets a 1-year extension. But there's no fine print that says, that contract can't be bought out. Yeah, and I'm telling you, they may wait to do it just because I think they're going to see lawsuit after lawsuit. And we've talked about Tyler Nickel, All right, guys, I agree. I'm yawning. Josh and I kind of got beef, but no, seriously, 2.5 hours on a Sunday. Good show. We kept a lot of listeners the entire time. Remember, if you're here, please consider being a member. I think we're up to 7 or 8 members total. It's only 99 cents a month, just kind of help support the show. Also like and subscribe. If you're new, if you're not new, like, and, we'll probably see you one day this week. Probably, let me think here. Maybe Tuesday night. My daughter's got senior night Tuesday night, but it should be over before 8:30. So we might be able to do a show Tuesday. Wednesday's probably out. Then we'll go for the marathon on Thursday. So, guys, appreciate you all. Thanks for continuing to support and continue to come by. Remember, make sure you like the show before you leave. And if you're really inclined to support, please consider being a member. With that being said, peace out and stay hot.